A New Mexico woman was killed and attacked, I should say, and nearly killed.
And the checks and balances that were supposed to be in place to prevent this did not work. Christine Edwards is frail and had home health care for simple mundane tasks. Then Yvette Jantate from Options Home Health Care in Taos went to Edwards' house twice last summer and ended up asking for Edwards' oxycodone pills. So Edwards asked her to leave, but police say Jantate went back later that night, tried to suffocate Edwards, bit her, threw her to the floor, and took off with Edwards' purse, phone, and the pills.
I forgive her because she's so sick, but I don't want her to get away with it again.
Jantate should have never been hired in the first place. She has a long criminal history, including convictions for aggravated battery, burglary, and drugs. Options Home Care says it does background checks and the state requires it, and says Jantate's criminal history disqualifies her from working there. So how did this end up happening? You want to see the entire story? Join us at 9 o'clock tonight on 2 Casa, or check out Kim Holland's story anytime at KRQE.com.
More trouble for the Veterans Administration. Retaliation complaints by whistleblowers at the VA have jumped. A federal watchdog agency is looking into 67 claims that supervisors at the VA retaliated against employees. On Capitol Hill last night, the focus of another House hearing was on those whistleblower complaints, some reporting long patient wait lines and falsified records. Committee members are now examining how the complaints were handled and whether the VA retaliated against whistleblowers. They will also look at steps the VA is taking to correct its many problems. Meanwhile, back here at home, a new audit shows the Department of Veterans Affairs in New Mexico is making progress in cutting down the number of new patients on their waiting list. The list includes new patients with appointments that cannot be rescheduled within 90 days. The audit shows that there were 482 veterans on the waiting list. That's actually down from more than 1,000 a month ago. The results also show tens of thousands of veterans are still waiting for an average of about 3 months for medical appointments. By the way, the reports are being released following nationwide outrage over secret waiting lists that were discovered and the suspected deaths of some veterans as a result.
5:03 now. Prosecutors are appealing a federal judge's decision to let a woman accused of kidnapping her own kids and leaving the country with them go to a halfway house. Ellen Clark disappeared from Placitas with her 3 small children back in 1995 after her husband told her he wanted a divorce. She was even on the FBI's most wanted list and wasn't found until 2008 when she and the kids were in London. Clark was recently extradited to the U.S. and pled not guilty on Monday. Prosecutors want her to stay locked up, but the judge ruled yesterday she is not a flight risk and should be released to a halfway house. Ms. Clark is still in jail this morning while prosecutors are trying to overturn that ruling. Well, a woman in Albuquerque who has a history of driving very badly is back behind bars this morning, less than a week after she's accused of almost killing someone else behind the wheel. Miranda Pacheco was thrown in jail yesterday, accused of testing positive for alcohol while on probation. She's on that probation for stealing a woman's purse. Now, remember a few years ago, Pacheco was speeding and weaving in and out of traffic on Paseo del Norte near the river. She drove off the road and killed a bicyclist who was well off the road on a bike path. Last week, we discovered that investigators say Pacheco was driving without a license in June, passed out behind the wheel, went the wrong way on Eubank, then crashed into this auto glass shop. That prompted the widow of the bicyclist Pacheco killed to speak out again.
When you've got somebody who had a history of driving recklessly before she killed my husband, and then afterwards you see the same kind of behavior where she gets into a car and she drives dangerously again and again, you wonder, where is the system not holding her accountable? What's going wrong?
Police are still waiting on blood test results from Pacheco's crash on Eubank before they can charge her with another DWI. All right, at 5:05, the city of Albuquerque is unveiling a massive plan for changing the city's bike system.
That's right. It would nearly double the city's paved bike routes from about 500 miles to 1,000. Years ago, the city decided that the bike system needed to be updated. The current trail systems date back to the early 1990s, and the on-street plan dates back to 2000. Well, now a new design is in the works for a new bike system.
It's also great for the environment to get people biking instead of driving every day to and from work. And then it's important for our community to be healthy.
The City Council will consider adopting the plan in the fall. The paths would be installed over the next 5 to 10 years. We have posted a link on our website to show you the maps and a list of upcoming meetings. Go to KRQE.com. A plan to make Santa Fe safer for bike riders has hit a speed bump. A City Council meeting has halted a plan to build a $2 million bicycle and pedestrian underpass at St. Francis Drive and West Alameda. Members of the Finance Committee aren't sure that the money for the project can be taken from a bond issue approved by voters in 2012. There will be a public hearing about this later this month.
Well, you know, New Mexico certainly isn't the only state dealing with a drought. Water levels at our neighbors, Lake Mead and Nevada, are at a new low, and they're getting even lower.
What did this look like a decade ago?
Well, this was all underwater. I mean, boats were everywhere. There was a whole marina here.
Well, check this out. The white line that you saw there, it's where the water used to be. The Bureau of Reclamation says Lake Mead is now just 39% full. It hasn't been this empty since the Hoover Dam was built and the reservoir was filled back in the 1930s.
The rate at which our weather patterns are changing is so dramatic that our ability to adapt to it is really crippled.
The reservoir serves Las Vegas, Nevada, Phoenix, and Los Angeles. And get this, despite its wasteful reputation, Las Vegas actually reuses 93% of all of its water. All right, and this is really interesting too. Found this out. So a few years ago, Las Vegas paid folks out a total of $200 million if they would rip up kind of the lawns that use a lot of water and put in some kind of more environmentally friendly lawn stuff. And even though the city is growing, they've grown by 400,000 people, they've managed to use 33% less water.
That's pretty good.
A lot of numbers,
Good
but
job,
the fact of the
Vegas.
matter is they're growing, yet they're using less water.